Hello. Good evening and a very warm welcome to you all. The number of heads that I see today in front of me makes it obvious that our program, Inspiring Young Minds, has been a runaway success right from its very inception. And we owe it all to your gracious presence and your warm encouragement. Thank you once again for being here. Today, we live in a world where cliched professions, traditional jobs, career options are being ditched in favor of newer ones, however ludicrous they might sound to the previous generation. And students today are charting the roads not taken and treading the unconventional path. As a result, what we see is that unhackneyed qualifications are making way into their CVs. For example, today we have young would-be doctors baking cakes, engineers taking up the microphones as stand-up comedians, and bureaucrats trying to capture wildlife, things unheard of, say, 20 years back, or even 10 years back maybe. But the question is, has India managed to keep up with this trend? Has it been able to resist hankering after getting 100% marks, winning trophies, prizes, medals, honor rolls? Have we been able to give up our obsession to become so-called doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, and civil servants? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. The reason why I sound a bit undecided is because this line of thought still manages to catch the fancy of the majority of the people, even in India today. You know, when we see the severe competitions for appearing, for writing competitive examinations like UPSC, CLAT, judicial service, banking exams, so on and so forth. But finally, a note of caution here. You see, our program is intended to kindle that flame of aspiration which lies deep in the hearts of each and every student. And what is that dream? That dream to achieve name, fame, and glory for oneself. And therefore, in seeking help to shape up one's career in the way one wishes to, wants to, dreams of, is the need of the hour. But please remember that career counseling is not crystal ball gazing. What do counselors do? They hold one-to-one sessions, they conduct psychometric tests, other mental exercises, and for what? So that they can delve deep into the minds of each and every student to find out what is going on in their heads. And along with this, their socio-economic background, leadership and organizational skills, their academic achievements throughout, their cultural background, as well as their parents' perspectives are taken into consideration. And so counselors blend technology and expertise to polish the students, their skills, so that they get a place where they deserve to be. And these counselors can certainly help the students to clear all the doubts that they have in their minds and show the students the paths which have been untraversed by them so far. But please remember, counselors can't walk down the lane with you. They can show you the path, but you have to do the walking yourself. And in this process, there will always be margins of error. But enough of my ramblings for this evening today. Let me now introduce you to someone who has been into career counseling for the past 15 years, and she has been closely associated with many reputed schools in Kolkata. A master's in applied psychology from the Calcutta University, Mrs. Nobomita Dattagupta guides and motivates her students to fearlessly confront the challenges that life throws down one's path. Mrs. Dattagupta, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. A very warm welcome, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you so much. Of course, a great career option sets a student apart from the crowd. So it's very important for all of you to choose a career that you believe in. Now, few questions that come to a student's mind is that, when do we start? So few people, they say, oh, not before, you're in class 12. Few say, just maybe not before 10. But the right time is probably when you're appearing for your first board exam. Of course, now with the pandemic situation, things have gone haywire. We are delving in a situation which is absolutely uncertain. But then, nonetheless, we have to stay focused. That is something that we have to believe in ourselves. So I think class 10 onwards, I think that is where you start, focusing yourself into what exactly you want to do. Now, to take up a career, to choose your career, there are a lot of obstacles that come your way. There are a lot of confusions, especially the students go through. There are societal pressures, there's a parental pressure, and of course peer pressure. So I think, now there are certain expectations that the society has from you, your parents have. So it is you, I think, who have to make, you have to do the talking with your parents that, no, this is what I want, this is what I can see my future in. But of course you have to convince them. So have a heart-to-heart talk to your parents. And of course, one thing that is there is that we get, very easily carried away by what our friends are doing. My friend is doing this, my friend is taking up science, so I need to take up science. Or otherwise, I'll be, somewhere looked down upon. Or, maybe I should take up, commerce because all my friends are taking up commerce. So you have to actually understand, and that is why I think now a subject called liberal arts is taking, it's actually becoming very, very popular, where you can try out so many different subjects along with the science subjects. You can have maths with art and music and English, and you can actually understand yourself whether you want to pursue maths later on or you want to go on with your art subjects. So I think that is something that is really good, and these subjects are actually coming up. I had a student from my school. I'll just take some time and I'll just share the incidents. That is, he was absolutely, not doing classes. So we used to be after him, why aren't you doing your classes? You don't want to do. But he used to always, spend hours in the computer lab, doing something we did not understand. And now I believe he's become a very famous ethical hacker that we say. So, so this is something that, is a trendsetter now. So hearing hacker, we are like hacker, and then we see, okay, it's ethical hacker, so it's legalized. So ethical hacking, and their job is never boring. So it's like very, very interesting, and you get paid really well. I know someone who passed out from with engineering, as ma'am was saying, doctors are baking cakes and like that. So I just remembered. So this person, he passed out engineering from Jadavpur University and is working with a very reputed firm. And so I met his father a few days back, and I said, how is he doing? He's like, I do not know because we don't meet him. So I was like, why? He's like, no, he's, just after 9 o'clock his day starts and he's into total gaming. So, morning he's doing his office, night time he's into some gaming stuff. So, there's a lot of other career options now. So it's not restricted to the traditional careers that we have always heard about. So there's artificial intelligence is of course, spreading so fast. There is robotics, so many career options. I think, now people are more aware. In our times, we were not aware, we did not have a counselor, or we did not get that guidance that you students can get now, whichever school you are in, or there are outside professionals also. And there is nothing wrong in going for an assessment, because many still have a taboo in our country that, going for an assessment, going for a psychometric test, what the result is going to be, how it's going to be taken. But trust me, it is only for your benefit. So the stage is yours, the world is yours, you are there to conquer it. So you have to actually focus, see what interests you, and just move ahead with it. I think that's all what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Hello. Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this evening's program. I would now request Professor Amita Chattopadhyay to introduce this evening's speaker, Dr. Atreya Acharyya, and to felicitate him. Amita Di.
Greetings to everybody. Now we are going to hear one of our distinguished scholars, Dr. Atreya Acharyya, and he is an astrophysicist. Astrophysics, is an area, the lure of which we cannot resist. And there are so many distinguished Indian astrophysicists like S. Chandrasekhar, Jayant Vishnu Narlikar, B.V. Srikantan, and our Shomukrai Chaudhary. And we are visualizing Atreya joining the bandwagon soon, and he is going to give you all the tips how to join this bandwagon. It is my pleasure to narrate to you the distinctions that Atreya has attained. He did his master's in physics and astronomy from University College, Durham University, UK. Did PhD in Gamma Ray Astronomy Center for Advanced Instrumentation, Durham University, UK, and postdoctoral fellow, Department of Physics and Astronomy, University of Alabama, USA. He has taught in various capacities and have delivered, say, talks in prestigious symposium like NASA Fermi Symposium, CTA Consortium meeting in Bologna, Italy, CTA Consortium meeting Sofia, Bulgaria, and NASA Fermi Summer School, Delaware, USA, and had lots of awards and certifications. But I'm very much impressed by his award that he was nominated for Durham University Award for Excellence in Outreach. So it is not only the academics that he has excelled in, but he has tried to expand the outreach activities, and kudos to him. So now I'm going to perform the most pleasant task of the evening. On behalf of all of you, I'm going to felicitate Dr. Atreya Acharyya. So, the podium is yours.
Right, good evening everyone. So lovely to see you over here, and it really is my pleasure to be here. So, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Yes, I'm Atreya, that's the title of my talk, and this is it. So, once again, as you kindly said, I'm Atreya. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Alabama in the United States. Earlier this year, back in July, I completed my PhD in gamma ray astronomy at the University of Durham in the United Kingdom. While I was there, as you've heard, I tutored and mentored undergraduate students, and I also, as you mentioned, the outreach work, I visited local schools, and that's what the outreach was for. As you can see, we visited local schools with our planetarium, and we talked to kids and showed them the stars and planets. When I'm not doing that, my other hobbies include walking up hills. So there's me up a few hills over there. That's in Edinburgh, and that's in America, in Yosemite. I played the piano, and I also love watching football. In case anyone's interested, I support a team called Tottenham Hotspur. So as I said, I'm an astronomer now. What I thought I'd start off with is talk to you about why I chose astronomy. So, firstly, a bit of a backstory. I'll take you back to the Voyager program. So on the top right of the screen, you can see the Voyager satellite. It was launched in 1977, okay, and it studied all the planets in the solar system and has now gone beyond it. It reveals all the planets in glorious detail, including my favorite planet. As you can see down below is a picture of Saturn, okay, and that's my favorite planet, in case you're wondering, because the rings, obviously. Now, the reason why I love Voyager in particular is because of this. Because back on February the 14th, 1990, Valentine's Day, Voyager 1 turned around and from about 6 billion kilometers away from Earth took not this photo, but instead this photo, the photo on the left of the screen. And that photo is a picture of what the Earth looks like from 6 billion kilometers away. And that is called the pale blue dot photo. Because at the end of the day, all the Earth is from 6 billion kilometers away is that little dot over there. And that, my friends, is the first reason I decided to be an astronomer. I remember I was at school, just like you guys, and I went to the library during a lunch break, and I saw that picture at the back of the magazine, and it inspired me to be an astronomer. Now, I can talk to you about that picture until the cows come home. In some cases I have, but what I thought I'd do instead is, instead of my own words, what I thought I'd do is I'd read to you the words of someone who knows a lot more about it than I do. I'm talking about the famous American astrobiologist, Carl Sagan, who used to present a TV show called Cosmos back in the day. And he also was a famous author and wrote many books. The TV show Cosmos was recently restarted with a guy called Neil deGrasse Tyson as host. But I thought I'd describe that picture, not with my own words, but rather his words. So I'm going to read it out. I'm going to see if we can get the audio in. Let's see, does this work? Right, does the audio work? Hang on, I'll get that thing sorted. It should work, right? Yes, can you put the music up slightly? Thank you. So, this is him describing the picture on the left. He says, "Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of. Every human being, whoever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of a joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization. Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer. Every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species live there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of a tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. who am I to argue? He makes some brilliant points. He calls astronomy a humbling and character-building experience. And as someone who does astronomy, I can say it indeed is. I'll give you an example. That dot is Earth. That's all we are. That's our planet from 6 billion kilometers away. In fact, to give you more perspective, the figure on the right is an artist's impression of the Milky Way. And that arrow you can see over there, that arrow points to where the solar system is. And here we are at Bengal Club in Calcutta, in India, one of 250 countries on Earth, which is one of 8, some would say 9 planets in the solar system. So we are in one tiny corner of that tiny corner. So we are indeed very, very tiny. Now, you might look at that picture and think just because we're so tiny means we're somehow insignificant as human beings. I disagree. I think the opposite is true. I think that picture proves we are indeed the most significant species that ever was. In fact, we are special. The reason I say so is despite being one tiny corner of a tiny corner, despite it being over there, we as human beings have evolved to such an extent whereby we can not only explore all of that and beyond, but also understand and comprehend all of that and beyond, which proves to me we as human beings are indeed special. And that's a scientific fact over there. So there you go. That is the first reason I decided to be an astronomer. I'll come back to the second reason at the end of my talk. Now, the purpose of showing those slides over there to begin with is not only to convince you to astronomy, because brilliant, if it is so brilliant, but more so to give you an example of how it's important to find a subject you're passionate about. Okay, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be astronomy. If it's astronomy, brilliant. If not, that's okay as well. As we discussed earlier, it could be medicine, it could be engineering, it could be commerce, it could be anything in literature, it could be humanities, it could be law, anything at all. Just find a subject you're passionate about and give it everything you've got, and trust me, you can't go wrong. And for me, that subject is astronomy. And now move on to the next slide. Now, what I thought I'd do over here is very quickly give you a brief summary of the application process. Now, as I say on my first bullet point over there, okay, it is very important to do your own research and, of course, take the guidance of the career counselors. So once again, I'll put the caveat, whatever is said over here is very general and generic. You should always do your own research and ask your career counselors for further advice. But what I'll start off with is first thing you do is you do some research on each university, if abroad you are considering applying to. That's very important, right? Secondly, if you're thinking of doing a PhD abroad, reach out to potential supervisors, okay? Very recently, I went from being a PhD student to being a supervisor myself, and trust me, we love it when people send us emails from across the world asking us about our work. So please, don't be shy. If you are a potential student, do reach out to these professors. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, secondly, make a list of all the application deadlines as well as the academic and language requirements. Once again, different places you might be interested in might have different requirements, whether it be IELTS or TOEFL or what the academic requirements are. Please have a look yourself and make a list of these so you're on top of things. Thirdly, keep an eye out for funding opportunities. These are once again usually subject and university specific, so once again keep an eye out for these. What I'll say from my own experience of living in England is after Brexit the funding opportunities has actually increased a lot, and we have better prospects as Indian citizens now that we are no longer grouped as separate from the Europeans, so that's probably the only good thing to come out of Brexit. Next I'll say is apply well in advance of the deadline. Okay, probably months in advance because these things do take time. Be original with your personal statement and CV. Okay, I know it's very tempting if someone asks you to write a personal statement to go to Google and say sample personal statement and copy and paste that. This is not a good idea. In fact, I'd ask you not to do that at all. Rather, be original and talk about your own experience. Trust me, you've all done some amazing work, and we'd love to know. I was part of the admissions team for a university a couple of years ago, and what I can say from my own experience is for every 10 personal statements, 7 of them were actually identical because they just copied and pasted the same thing and changed the names. In one case, they didn't even change the name. A guy called Jack said he's Robert applying to another university. So please, 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 be careful. Don't copy and paste. Okay, write your own. Okay, we want to hear whatever it is, right? It could be about your academic work. It could be about your extracurricular work. It might be sport. It could be music. It could be a film you watch. Be original and talk about yourself. We want to know about it. And lastly, give yourself enough time for the visa application. Because a lot of people come to me and they stress out about the visa application. Trust me, it's not that hard. Once you do get an offer, you should be pretty straightforward and good to go, right? Just remember, it takes some time, and if you're doing a science subject, it requires some additional paperwork. But don't worry about it. It's usually the most straightforward process. Just take your time, get your paperwork together, and once again, I'll repeat this again, do your own research, because trust me, even though it might appear hard and time-consuming, you'll be thankful if you did it. So remember, once again, do your own research. Now, with that said, what I thought I'd do is I'll talk to you about my experience while studying abroad. In particular, what I thought I'd do is I'd share some of the lessons my PhD supervisors taught me while I was doing my PhD over the last 3 years. So before that, I'd introduce you to my PhD supervisors. So on the top right-hand picture over there, that's Professor Paula Chadwick. She's a lovely English lady, and I love her to bits. Below her is Dr. Anthony Brown, my other supervisor, and between them, the two of them basically taught me everything I know. And I'm going to highlight some of the important things they taught me over the coming slides. The first thing they taught me is to always ask questions. In fact, something very amazing happened. Before I came to give this talk, I had some amazing guys come up to me and ask loads of questions, and I actually loved that, because it's very important, no matter where you're studying, be it in India, abroad, whatever you're doing, to always ask questions. If something doesn't make sense, ask questions. I'll come on to that in a few slides' time. Try to explain things in the simplest way possible. Now, people believe usually science is about complicated equations and difficult words. Trust me, it isn't. I'll talk about that in the next slide. If you try to explain things in the simplest way possible, you can't go wrong. And lastly, and most importantly, I find, is the last point, which says, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because in the words of Paula, that's how we learn. I know as young adults, it's often tempting to be a bit scared of making mistakes, but that's okay. Trust me, I make mistakes all the time, right? It's about making mistakes, learning from those mistakes. So it's okay to make mistakes, but try to make sure you don't make the same mistake over and over again. And you keep on doing this, eventually you get to the point that you make less mistakes. So trust me, it's okay to make mistakes. Don't be too hard on yourself. And so come on to that in a couple of slides' time. So as I said, you need to try to explain things in the most simplest way possible. So I'll talk to you by talking a bit about my research in that slide. I say, remember to understand the fundamentals. Now, it is easy to believe that a degree in physics involves solving scary equations, right? A lot of people believe that. A lot of people come up to me and say, Atreya, physics is so hard. It's got so many equations I need to memorize. How do I even pass? Trust me, I don't think it is. Right? Physics is not as much all those complicated equations, but I believe physics is about taking a complex looking problem and trying to break it down into simple parts, often using very simple analogies. I'll give you an example just now, because earlier today, someone asked me a very good question on black holes, and I'll actually talk about black holes. So before that, a bit about my research. So that is what a typical AGN looks like. So that's a galaxy. So that is a galaxy, and the center of the galaxy is a black hole. And together, that is called an active galactic nuclei. The galaxy and the black hole together is called an active galactic nuclei. And my job is to look at these things and try to figure out where is the light coming from, or rather, how far from a black hole is the light coming from. And that's what I do as part of my research. Now, you might listen to that and think, wow, black holes, active galactic nuclei, sounds complicated. Actually, it isn't. In fact, I'll tell you now, already since this morning, you guys have seen something very similar to a black hole at least once, possibly even multiple times since this morning. I'll take you back to this morning when you brushed your teeth. And I hope all of you brushed your teeth in the morning. It's a good idea. Okay? Now, when you brushed your teeth in the morning, you saw the water go down the sink or drain, right? Now, the water going down the drain, near the drain, was moving fast. The water further away from the drain was moving slow, right? The water moving near the drain is moving fast. The water moving further away from the drain is moving slow. In a black hole, the same thing happens. Material falls into the black hole. The material near the black hole is moving fast. The material further away is moving slow. And when the fast-moving particles interact with the slow-moving particles, they collide and they give off friction, and that's where we get the heat and light from, and that is what people like me study. And that, my friends, is how a black hole gives off light. And that's all there is. Same as the way you brush your teeth. Okay, now what I thought I'd do for the next slide is talk about the other 2 points. Okay, I'll give you an example of how to always ask questions and never be afraid of making mistakes. So, I thought I'd do that. You're doing something different. I thought I'd give you a very brief history of the origins of astronomy. Now, I'll take you back some 500 years ago. Now, 500 years ago, people believed, in that figure over there, that the Earth was the center of the universe. They believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, and all the planets and the sun move uniformly around the Earth. This is based on a guy called Aristotle, a Greek philosopher who came up with this theory many, many years ago. So they believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. However, Mars didn't make any sense. You know Mars, the 4th planet? So for some reason, Mars acted a bit funny. So what would happen is, as you can see in that image over there, Mars is in the sky, it's moving, and it stops, moves backwards, and then keeps on going. Let's give it another go. So there's Mars, the red planet up there. It's moving on the sky, stops, turns backwards, and does loop, and then keeps on going. Right, this behavior is called retrograde behavior, because it stops, goes back. And people were like, hang on, if everything's moving around the Earth, why does Mars act a bit funny? Which is a serious question, right? So, once again, if something doesn't make sense, we should always ask questions. And the guy who asked this question was a guy called Nicholas Copernicus in Poland, who came up with the heliocentric model. And he said that all spheres surround the sun, as if the sun was at the center of the universe, and everything orbits it. So the center of the universe is no longer on the Earth, but rather on the sun. Now, as I showed you before, the solar system is nowhere near the center of the Milky Way. So we know now that is actually incorrect. The center of the universe is nowhere near the sun. So in a way, Copernicus was wrong. However, because he asked that question, because of his curiosity, we made the jump from thinking that the Earth was the center to knowing that the sun was at the center. And this represented the first great leap in our understanding of the solar system. So once again, remember, very rarely do we get to the correct answer in one go, okay? Learning is a step-by-step process. As long as you believe in the process and keep on plodding on, I think you should be fine, okay? Copernicus didn't get to the answer in one go, but he gave us a path to the answer eventually. This was followed on by a guy called Galileo. I'll talk more about him at the end of the talk. Now, in 1610, Galileo observed 4 moons orbiting Jupiter. And then the reason why this is important is because this was the first proof of a celestial body orbiting something other than the Earth. Okay? And this proved that the Earth is not that special, positionally. I explained earlier that we are special human beings, but positionally the Earth isn't that special. And this gave more proof to Copernicus' point that the Earth might not be at the center of the universe. Lastly, in the 1800s, a guy called William Herschel counted all the stars to make a map of the Milky Way. Now, his map was sadly wrong, okay? Firstly, because no matter where you are on Earth, you can't count all the stars because some of the stars will always remain below the horizon. And even the ones you see above the horizon, some of them are covered by dust clouds. You can't really see them and count them. So his map was wrong. However, he revealed that the Milky Way was a lot bigger than we originally imagined, and that the sun was actually nowhere near the center. So once again, with these three people, we haven't got to the correct answer yet, but slowly, step by step, we're making progress to what we now know to be the correct answer. Once again, learning a step-by-step process, as long as you believe in the process and keep plodding away, you can't go wrong. So no matter what stage of your academic careers you are in, whether it be at school, university, or even a parent coming and listening to this, or a school teacher, remember, don't be too hard on yourself. You're doing okay. It took them 2,000 years to figure this out, so don't worry, okay, you're doing okay, you'll be fine. Okay, so now with the history of astronomy done, what I thought I'd talk about is a bit about studying abroad. Just a few slides on why I think it's quite fun to study abroad, what you should look out for, and how to make the most of it. So what I thought I'd do firstly is tell you the first tip, is while you are abroad, to embrace the differences while you are there. Now, studying abroad is quite fun, okay? Because you get to meet people from all over the world. For example, yesterday I had 3 separate Zoom calls, one with a guy from China, a guy from England, and a guy from America. And basically, I met people on 3 continents because I got to go abroad, so which is quite fun. Okay. Now, I suggest when you do go abroad, hopefully you will, to take advantage of this unique opportunity and interact with these people and get involved in cross-cultural activities. Okay, always get involved. Okay, there's something very beautiful when you have people from different cultures, different countries, different backgrounds working together and getting things done. Trust me, it's quite fun interacting with these people. Also, sometimes, okay, as we discussed earlier, this might require you to step out of your comfort zone. Okay. Don't be afraid. That's okay. Some things require us to step out of the comfort zone. The best things do. But don't be afraid to give things a go, right? If you never try, you never know. Okay? See, people come to me and say, Atreya, I don't like that. I say, have you tried it? And they go, no. Well, if you haven't tried, how do you know you don't like that, right? So if you do go abroad, please go, make the most of it, interact with people from all over the world. Trust me, it's a very rewarding experience. Okay. Now, I said over there to embrace our differences, okay? That's step 1. However, also important is to retain your own identity. Because here's the thing. Just like we look at people from abroad and are fascinated by them, okay? People from all over the world look at us as Indians and are fascinated by us. It works both ways, right? It's not just us fascinated by a guy from New York. A guy from New York can be fascinated by us as well. And trust me, they are. I've always been pleasantly surprised by how much people from abroad seem to know about Indian culture, Indian history, and everyone loves a curry. It's a fact. I remember in England, I'd ask my friends what their favorite food was, and they'd say chicken tikka masala. And I'd go, fair enough. I mean, to be fair, I mean, there's not much food to choose from, but even so, it's really fun having your own food from your country as their favorite food. So trust me, they love to know about your culture. So when you go over there, while you should interact with them and embrace their culture, also it works both ways, give and take. So you give your culture as well, and that's why you have an exchange, a proper exchange, where you go over there, interact with them, and basically give them some of your culture and take some of theirs, and basically find a nice middle ground which works for you both. So once again, embrace their culture, but retain your own identity. And the reason that's important is because the really fun thing of living now in 2021, soon to be 2022, is we as human beings share more in common with people abroad than ever before. No point in our history until now have we had so much in common with people from other parts of the world. You can grow up in Calcutta or grow up in California, but have similar experiences growing up. Okay, we stream the same TV shows on Netflix or Amazon Prime. We watch the same videos on YouTube. We listen to the same music on Spotify, Apple Music. We play the same video games on a PlayStation. And most important of all, we communicate with each other through social media. So trust me, the world is a much smaller place now than it was 20, 30, and definitely 50 years ago. So therefore, try to make the most of it and interact. Okay, and the best thing is, because of this, because the world's so small, while studying abroad, you are guaranteed, I'll guarantee you this, you're guaranteed to come across people having similar tastes, experiences, and hobbies. They do exist, be it a sport you both like, okay, be it a book you both like, be it a movie you both like, okay, a singer you both like. Okay, they do exist. So go abroad, find these people, and cherish them, because they do exist. Okay, so I've got 2 of my friends over there. On the top is Scott. Now, Scott grew up in northeast England. Okay, him and I had completely different backgrounds. But because the world's so small and because the world we live in, him and I are best of friends because we share loads in common. Basically, we find each other's company amazing. We spend a lot of time together. Below is a guy called Will. I mentioned earlier that I'm a football fan. Will is another football fan. I support Tottenham. He supports Southampton. And Will and I basically spent the last 5 years before the pandemic going up and down the country watching football games. Okay, so trust me, you will find someone with something common. It doesn't have to be football, could be cricket. They love cricket over there. Go and talk to a guy in the pub about cricket. You can spend the entire day talking about it. Okay, doesn't have to be sport. Could be literature, could be film, could be music. You will find someone in common when you go abroad. So once again, it is quite fun. Okay, speaking of which, no matter what you do, whether in India, abroad, whatever stage of your life, whether you're a student or an adult or a parent, the most important thing I know is don't forget to have fun. Because at the end of the day, guys, that's the most important thing you can do. Okay? And I know it sounds a bit weird, me saying that after the last 2 years we've just had. But, I mean, you can't blame me. My parents are both doctors. I'm a scientist myself. And I believe because of that, eventually, sooner rather than later, they're going to find a way, right? Human beings, you give us a problem, we always find a solution. We'll always find a solution eventually to kick the virus up the backside. And eventually, one day, sooner rather than later, I believe we will eventually come back to normal. And if you are abroad at the time, or even in India, remember to go out and have fun, whatever that is. It might be lying on the snow, or you could be kayaking. So earlier before this one, in my introduction, they mentioned that I'd been to NASA a couple of years ago. So that picture over there was actually taken during my NASA trip over there, where I attended summer school over there in Philadelphia. And the thing about it is, while it was very intense and very hectic, it was really, really fun, because every day after work, we'd all go off and do fun things, like we'd play football, we'd go kayaking together, we'd play board games, we'd have a barbecue. So what they said abroad, or even in India, and I think in India this is more important, have a very good work-life balance, okay? Don't overwork yourself. Trust me, you deserve a break, and remember to take enough break. And whether that involves, going out with your students and having fun, or once again going down a water slide and having fun, whatever tickles your fancy, go out there, and please, 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 don't forget to have fun. And that brings me to my final slide. Hooray, we made it. And this slide I've labeled something I really believe in, because it used to be the motto of my old university, and also applies a lot, I believe, to you guys and us as human beings, whereby we should always learn from the past and create our future. So as human beings, wherever we are, everything we are now depends on what came before us, and whatever we do now will affect what comes after us, okay? As you said with astronomy, without Copernicus, there wouldn't be Galileo. Without Galileo, there wouldn't be Herschel. Without Herschel, there wouldn't be Einstein. And without any of those, I wouldn't be here talking about astronomy to you today. So once again, everything depends on what comes before, so we're shaped by the past, and we're creating the future. But as I was telling someone before the talk, actually, we live in a very, very privileged time as human beings, where we guys live in a time where, thanks to, cell phones, for example, or books, and due to the advancements we made in technology, basically we've got the world at our fingertips. So even stuff you study at schools is much, much more than anything they knew 500, 400 years ago. In fact, you guys, not me, you guys could give Galileo a tutorial. Seriously. Back then, they didn't know about Newton's laws of motion, which you do at school. They didn't know about gravity. In fact, they definitely didn't know how to operate a phone. So trust me, you guys could give Galileo a tutorial. So you don't need to be an astronomer to do astronomy, okay? Just like you don't need to be a musician to appreciate music, right? We all have our favorite musicians, which we love listening to. So just like that, you don't need to be an astronomer to appreciate astronomy, which is one of the things I love about astronomy. But if you do decide to do astronomy, and I hope you do, there are a lot of career options out there. For a start, what I do is research. So for me, as we mentioned earlier, I did my undergraduate degree, then my PhD, and now I'm a postdoctoral fellow. So it's one of the steps in the ladder between your undergrad and PhD, and eventually becoming an assistant, associate, and finally a fully fledged professor. And this is remaining research. So this is basically the same as being a PhD student, but with far more independence and no guide or supervisor to help guide you along. So, that's quite fun. You could also join industry, okay? That's another very, very, very important career option. because they're always looking for people with problem-solving skills. So if you do a physics degree or a PhD, you will acquire problem-solving skills, which you can then use to work in industry, for example. Teaching, I mentioned earlier, I love teaching. It's my favorite thing. Where you go to schools or maybe even university and talk to people, like we are doing now, talk to people about what you do. And if you like teaching, I would recommend a science degree in general. That gives you the opportunity to then transition to teaching and do that as well. Consultancy is something which is less known in this country, for example, but trust me, it is possible to apply your problem-solving skills to help others solve their own problems. And in case you're wondering, it pays quite well too, so have a look, keep an eye out for that. The other careers would be software development and programming. So during a course of a physics degree, you acquire skills in programming, which you can then use to do other sorts of programming even beyond physics. Maybe in biology, you can model how the coronavirus transmits using the same skills you learned as a physics degree student. And some people I know have actually done that. Okay, you can do that to other real-life problems as well. We're always looking for problem solvers. Medicine, I actually have a couple of friends who did a 3-year physics degree and then transitioned to medicine. Because in the UK, they have a system where if you do a science degree, you get a fast track option where you join the medical course in the 3rd year rather than the 1st. So that's something else. But basically what I'm trying to say is if you do a degree in physics, astronomy, or anything science-wise, the world, or rather in this case the universe, is your oyster. Now before I move on to my final point, which is the other reason I did astronomy, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for giving me the opportunity to give this talk. In particular, Aparna Auntie and Gautam Uncle, who basically I've known all my life really. And it's been a pleasure knowing you all my life so far. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to give this talk today. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for being an amazing audience. I hope you've enjoyed this talk as much as I have giving it. So thanks for turning up, by the way. So it's been an absolute pleasure. So with that said, I'd like to talk about my final point of my other reason why I do astronomy. The other reason I do astronomy is because when we look out in space, we're actually looking back in time. Because we're actually time travelers, right? Because the light we see up in the sky was emitted millions and millions of years ago. So we're actually going back in history and seeing what the world was like millions of years ago. We're all time travelers. So even if you look out in space, we're actually looking back in time. But we're actually looking back at history. But not just any history, okay? The cool thing is when you look out in space, you see other stars and other planets. But those were formed by the Big Bang. But so are we. Everything about us, every molecule, everything at all, comes from the Big Bang. So when we look out in space and look back at history, we're looking back at not just any history. We're looking back at our history, my history, your history, our history, which I think is quite cool, really. So when you go out today after this talk and look at the sky, remember, we're not just looking at anything, we're looking at where we come from, where we originate. Our history before history was invented, which to me is really, really cool. Now, hopefully I've spoken to you about why I chose astronomy. Now, it doesn't have to be astronomy, right? If you do astronomy, brilliant, but the main thing is find a subject you're passionate about and give it everything you've got, okay? Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how we learn, okay? Explain things in the simplest way possible. Trust me, that's the way to go. And of course, always, always, always ask questions. And if you do go abroad, okay, remember, embrace their culture, give them some of yours, interact, okay, that's really cool. And through that, get involved in activities. But, most important of all, no matter whatever you do, whatever you study, wherever in the world you study it, please, don't forget to have fun. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about having fun, right? We need to have fun. So, with that said, I'll end you with this. We're astronomers. This is what we do. Someone's got to do it, and it could be you. Thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Atreya, for that wonderfully absorbing talk. I, for one, was enthralled. I was still am someone who's mortally scared of physics. The very name, makes me kind of freeze with fear. But after listening to somebody who's been able to explain it with such lucidity, I feel like going back to school once again. Maybe if I had a teacher like him, I would have been less scared of the subject. But then now it's too late. But then Atreya would again say, it's not too late. Thank you once again. We open the floor now to questions. You can ask questions in any language that you wish to, and I'm sure Atreya will be more than happy to answer it. So please, if you have any questions, this is your opportunity. Because when we were thinking about doing this program, the idea was to bring the students and somebody who was into studies, doing higher studies abroad, if we could bring him in front of you all, we thought that you will be more at ease asking questions. So please, 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 Banglaয় প্রশ্ন করতে হলে you are more than welcome. হিন্দিতে প্রশ্ন করতে হলে you are more than welcome. ইংলিশে প্রশ্ন করতে হলে you are more than welcome. কিন্তু প্লিজ এই তিনটে ভাষার বাইরে যদি কোনো ভাষা কারো থাকে তাহলে আমরা অপারগ. So feel free.
Sir, kindly describe the gravity assist.
Wow, that is a very technical question. Could we have a talk after this? Because it'll take some in-depth discussing, and I'd prefer we discuss the technical part after it, maybe. Is that okay?
Okay, sir. Sir, আমি বাংলায় করতে পারি?
হ্যাঁ, নিশ্চয়ই।
স্যার বলছি অ্যালবার্ট আইনস্টাইনের স্যার আমরা অ্যালবার্ট আইনস্টাইনের রিসার্চ থেকে নিই লাইটের কোনো মাস হয় না, কিন্তু যখন ব্ল্যাক হোলের ওপর লাইট রিফ্লেক্ট হয়, কিন্তু যখন পড়ে কিন্তু রিফ্লেক্ট হয় না কেন? কারণ লাইটের তো কোনো মাস নেই, কিন্তু যেহেতু গ্র্যাভিটি মাসকেই অ্যাট্রাক্ট করে, তো এটা কিভাবে হচ্ছে?
আচ্ছা, এটা একটা বোঝাতাম ইকুয়েশন। সেটা মেন কারণটা আমি ভেরি সিম্পলিস্টিক এখনভাবে বলে দিচ্ছি, পরে আরও যখন ডিসকাস করবো আরও ডিটেলে বলবো। সেটা মেন বেসিসটা হলো ফিজিক্সের যে মেন বেসিস, এনার্জি সবসময় কনজার্ভ করতে হয়। তো মাস থাকুক না থাকুক, তোমাকে সবসময় সাম টোটাল যেটা প্রথম যে এনার্জিটা থাকে সেটা শেষের এনার্জির সাথে ইকুয়াল হতে হবে। তো সেখানে একটা কারণে লাইটের যে এনার্জিটা আছে সেটা ইকুয়েশনটা বলতে HC এটাকে বলে, মানে এটা করে বার করি, সেটাগুলো যদি অ্যাড করি সেগুলো থেকে দেখা যায় যে লাইটটা শেষ পর্যন্ত বেরোতে পারবে না, সেটা এনার্জি কনজারভেশন থেকে অ্যালাউড নয়। ঠিক আছে?
ওকে স্যার,
এটা বুঝলে? এটা পরে আরও বুঝিয়ে দেবো।
স্যার আমরা মানে মহাবিশ্বের যে কোনো দুখানা অবজেক্ট পরস্পরকে আকর্ষণ করতে পারবে, কিন্তু স্যার দুখানা ব্ল্যাক হোল কি পরস্পরকে, বা দুখানা বা তার বেশি ব্ল্যাক হোল কি পরস্পরকে আকর্ষণ করে ঘুরতে পারে?
করতে পারে। ইনফ্যাক্ট কিছু বছর আগে আমরা দেখেছি যে এটা হয়েছে, একটা উদাহরণ হয়েছে যেখানে দুটো ব্ল্যাক হোল নিজেদের মধ্যে মার্জ করে, দুটো গ্যালাক্সি অনেক অনেক পুরনো, নিজেদের মধ্যে কাছাকাছি গিয়ে প্রথমে নিজেদের মধ্যে রোটেট করে ইভেনচুয়ালি কোলাইড করেছে। আর সেখান থেকে একটা জিনিস যেটা আমরা জানি গ্র্যাভিটেশনাল ওয়েভস, নাম শুনেছো? তো সেখান থেকে গ্র্যাভিটেশনাল ওয়েভস বেরিয়েছে, তো সেখান থেকে সেটা পারা আছে।
স্যার এটাও তো নাকি বলা হচ্ছে মিল্কি ওয়ে অ্যান্ড অ্যান্ড্রোমিডা পরস্পরকে কোলাইড করবে, কিছু
করবে ইভেনচুয়ালি করবে, সেটা প্রায় মিলিয়নস অফ ইয়ার্সের স্কেলে, তো সেটা নিয়ে আমাদের চিন্তা করার কিছু নেই, কিন্তু করতে পারে।
স্যার আমার এক্ষুনি একটা কথা মনে পড়লো, কিছু মাস আগে তিনটে ব্ল্যাক হোল, মানে একটা ব্ল্যাক হোলকে আরেকটা ব্ল্যাক হোল, এবং ওই দুটো মিলে আরেকটাকে করছিল, রোটেট করছিল। তো এটা স্যার কিভাবে হচ্ছে একটু?
এটা কি করে হচ্ছে এটা সিমুলেশন করে দেখিয়ে দিতে পারি তোমাকে কি করে হচ্ছে।
স্যার বুঝতে পারলাম না একটুখানি।
ঠিক আছে, দেখিয়ে দেবো টকের পরে আসবে, আমি দেখিয়ে দেবো কি করে হচ্ছে।
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Sir, I had a question, like,
Yes.
How can we make physics studying interesting?
How do we make physics interesting?
Like, I never understood what is being studied in the class, what is being taught in the class, and now since I want to take up medical science, so I want it to be a really big part of it.
Oh, that's amazing. Firstly, very good question. And that's amazing that you want to do physics in the end. And don't worry, if you found physics complicated so far, it's probably not your fault, okay? It's the way they teach us physics over here and also abroad. They make you think that physics is all about just solving really complicated equations when it isn't. So the way I try to make it for myself is try to think of real life examples. So like when I said with black holes, I equated it to water after you brushed your teeth. So think about real life examples, and there are loads about, okay? The real cool thing about physics is you can easily equate it, whatever example you can think of, there's something very similar in everyday life, and that's the way I try. And what I do is you take a very complex problem and try to break it into simple parts, and then solve those parts together. So what I do is, if you want to know more about physics, the first place to go is YouTube. There are loads of very fascinating videos and lectures on YouTube, which you can have a look at, and basically just keep on going, right? I'm sure you'll be fine, and you sound like you're doing a great job already.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, feel free. Anyone? Yes?
স্যার আপনি টাইম ট্রাভেলের কথা বললেন
হ্যাঁ।
আর লাইটের ইয়েতে, তো ওটা একটু যদি স্যার একটু বুঝিয়ে দেন ভালো হয়।
লাইটের ক্ষেত্রে আচ্ছা, তো আমরা যে আলোটা দেখছি, তো যে দূরে দূরে গ্যালাক্সি আছে, লাইটের তো একটা স্পিড আছে, তাই না? 3 × 10⁸ মিটার পার সেকেন্ড। তো সেটা মানে লাইট যেখান থেকে আমরা দেখছি, যত দূরের জিনিস দেখছি তত আগে সেই আলোটা বের করা হয়েছে। তো যেগুলো ধরো একটা লাইট ইয়ারের থেকে বেশি, লাইট ইয়ার মানে কি, একটা লাইট একটা বছরে কত যেতে পারে, 3 × 10⁸ টাইমস একটা ইয়ার, মানে 3600 3 × 365 24 যেটা হয়। তো সেটার থেকে দূরে যেগুলো আছে, সেই আলোটা যেটা আমরা দেখছি, এটা আজকের আলো নয়, ঠিক আছে? ধরো যেটা 1 লাইট ইয়ার দূরের গ্রহ থেকে দেখি, সেটা 1 বছর আগেকার আলো। আর যেগুলো 100 লাইট ইয়ার, সেগুলো 100-200 বছরের আলো। তো আমরা যখন আলোগুলো দেখছি, আমরা আসলে ইতিহাসে দেখছি, মানে তখনকার দিনের আলোতে দেখছি, আজকের নয় কিন্তু।
স্পেস ফাইবারটা একটু বোঝাবেন?
স্পেস 500
ফাইবার,
স্পেস ফাইবার, সেটা আরেকটা, সেটা আমার অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমার বাইরে, তো সেটা আমাকে দেখে বলতে হয় তোমাকে, কিন্তু খুব ভালো প্রশ্ন।
স্যার বলছি, অ্যালবার্ট আইনস্টাইনের একটা উনি বলেছিলেন, তো বলেছিলেন যে যদি পৃথিবীকে গোল করে কোনো একটা ট্রেন চালানো হয়, আর ওটা যদি লাইটের স্পিডে যায়, তাহলে আমরা যে বছর ট্রেনে উঠবো, মানে যখন ট্রেনে উঠবো তার 1 সপ্তাহ পর যদি আমরা ট্রেন থেকে নামি, তাহলে আমরা 64 বছর পর আমরা মানে ইয়ে করব। তো এটা কি সত্যি হতে পারে?
এটাকে বলে টুইন প্যারাডক্স, তাই না? যদি আমরা লাইটের স্পিডে ট্রাভেল করি একটা কনসিডারেবল সময়, তাহলে আমাদের লোকেরা বলে যে এজ বাড়বে না। যদি কেউ অ্যান্টি এজিং চায়, সেটা একভাবে করা যেতে পারে, কিন্তু দুঃখের কথা হলো সেটা আমরা প্র্যাকটিক্যালি টেস্ট করতে পারবো না। সেটা আমাদের থিওরি, যে আমরা যদি করতে পারতাম তাহলে সেটা হতো, কিন্তু অ্যাজ থিংস স্ট্যান্ড আমরা কোনোভাবে লাইটের কাছাকাছিও যেতে পারবো না, কিন্তু থিওরিটিক্যালি পসিবল।
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Good evening.
Good evening.
I actually have a 3-part question.
Yes, go for it.
Number 1, what are your views about the expansion of the universe?
Yes.
And number 2, engineers and mathematicians are saying that time travel is mostly a feat of engineering now, because the theoretical problems are all solved and everything, and it's on pen and paper. And thirdly, we know about the wormhole, and so how far do you think time travel is possible in the near future?
Right, one at a time. So your first question was on the expansion of the universe, yes?
Yeah.
We have proof that the universe expands, because we can see the galaxies. There is something called redshift galaxies. You know that? Yeah. So we can measure the redshift of these galaxies, and we can see that the galaxies which are further away, the distance of these galaxies are increasing. In other words, the light we get from them is turning redder. So the expansion of the universe is actually a scientifically proven fact, that we started with the Big Bang, and since the Big Bang, the universe has been expanding, and the stuff which is further away is moving away further. Does that answer your first question? Yeah. Okay. Secondly, you said engineering. I'm very glad you said engineering, being an engineer. You are correct. Everything we do in science is in a way engineering. Basically, if you engineers didn't build these telescopes for me, I couldn't operate them, right? A lot of science and engineering involves working together, whereby we do the science and tell you the specifications. You guys do some amazing work to come up with these things. So yes, you're right. It is to an extent engineering. It's basically the two of us combining our efforts and working together, and that's how I believe. So yes, you're right. It is to an extent engineering. So does that answer your second question?
Yes.
Okay, what's your third question? Sorry, I've forgotten. I'm getting old now.
With the advent of wormhole and the concept, so are you saying that time travel is possible in the very, I'm not talking about the very near future, but sometime in the near future?
Theoretically, yes. Practically, we don't know. I'm a scientist. If I don't see something, I can't believe it. So theoretically, it would be possible, but we don't know that these things actually exist. But if they did, it could, in principle, be possible, like the twin paradox.
Thank you. I actually want to ask one more.
Yes, go for it.
As you said, the universe is expanding.
Yes.
So, and again, there is another theory that the universe will also end in a Big Bang. So then it will not be by the expansion. It should be by the contraction, right? Or it should be by the engulfing of in a black hole.
That is a very good question. I think it's the latter, because we know the universe is expanding. There's nothing we know of to cause a contraction. There are these two things we don't know about. One's called dark matter and one's called dark energy. And these are the two things that are responsible for the expansion, which we don't know enough about. I could tell you what it is, but I would be lying to you if I said I don't know what it is. But that's what we believe. We know for a fact the universe is expanding. If the universe eventually does contract, it would be by all the black holes engulfing each other and eventually creating a monster black hole and eating everything up and then giving a big burp or a big bang and everything destroyed. So, but don't worry, we'll all be dead by then, so you're good.
Fully. Thank you very much.
Shemoti, do we have any online questions?
No, not till now.
Not till now. Okay, any other?
Sir,
Yes.
I want to ask an unconventional question.
Yes,
that is, we have proved many things through physics, like in astronomy, that
Yes.
the Big Bang theory and everything.
Yes.
And we have also seen many things through our own eyes, through telescopes and all. But on Earth, we have seen many things that we can see, but we don't believe them. So how are we believing these things that go on in our universe through physics only?
So did you say, why aren't we believing things we haven't seen? Or, sorry,
Like we have seen many things
Yes.
on Earth itself that that we can't believe our own eyes, illusions and all things. So how are we believing that in the universe things that are happening? How are we actually believing them?
That is a very good question. So as my own work is, right, I'm an observational astronomer. So I rely on things we can see. So I measure stuff from faraway galaxies and black holes and rely on that. But there are things we can't see, right? We can't perform experiments out in space because we don't control the parameters. We can't say that black hole's that massive, that black hole's that massive, and we can't collide them, right? It's not in our hands. So what we do instead there is we make certain assumptions. The science is about making certain assumptions, being able to justify those assumptions, and then doing simulations based on those assumptions. And that's how we know what we know about things we can't see. And multiple people do it, not just one person. If one person finds a result, another person will cross-check that, another person will cross-check that, and that's how we eventually come up with our theories. But that's a very good question.
Sir, and another question is that I saw in some TV program that Stephen Hawking or someone else said that what goes on behind our back, we don't know about it. So it can also be the impossible things that go on. I saw something like a table flew out of the room and went to the moon and came back. When we are not looking at them, how are we supposed to believe that it is happening or not? So can you say something about that?
That is true, because we are in the universe, and when we look up in the sky, we can only see a certain finite portion of the universe. There's an entire bit of the universe which is below the horizon or beyond our reach, which we can't see. Okay, so it is possible that things happen there which we can't define or we don't know of. But because we don't know of them, we don't talk about them.
So last question, that
Yes.
is black holes. I have
Yes.
seen, I heard that we can go back into the future. This is one famous statement. So can you say something about it?
That is based on a science fiction movie, and it is, once again, like most movies, possible to do things in movies which you can't do in real life. In principle, we have no evidence for that. But if the evidence does come, I'll be the first guy to say, yes, we can.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Pleasure.
Okay, sir,
Yes.
I want to say something, firstly, that you have done your PhD right abroad, right?
Yeah.
So anything that you have faced, that is your experience that you faced, number one. Number two is that, you know, with the development of science and with the development of computer science especially, your particular work will be much faster than before. So what were the amenities that were there Especially, I want to tell about the super first computers that you have been using. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. I think I'll actually start with the second question first because it's a more easier question.
Okay.
So, yes, a lot of the work I do is indeed computer science. It's all sitting, I code in a programming language called Python, and most of my days are spent on Python modeling stuff and solving equations. So basically, what we do, and basically as someone else just said over there, my work is related to part engineering and part computer science. And without those two, I wouldn't have a job. So, if you are one of those two guys, thanks for giving me a job and getting me paid. Yes, we did have very fast computers, not just in Durham, but throughout England. And now in America, where I'm there now, I use a cluster called from Columbia University in New York. And I also use a cluster run by NASA as well in their base in Maryland. And what we do is we put up simple codes, okay, and then we send them to the supercomputer. Right. And we give jobs, we call them. And we give thousands of jobs every day and have them do this programming and return us the job so you can do parallelly and saves a lot of time. So basically, without those supercomputers, I wouldn't have a job. So thank you.
And analysis was much faster, right?
Exactly. And that's the thing. 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, you can't do that. Which to me is amazing. The fact that in 2021, we can do this faster than at any point in our history. So, you young kids over here, you guys won the lottery by doing this education now, because we've never had technology to do this before. So,
yes.
Keep on going. In answer to your first question, that's a very good question as well, about the challenges I faced while studying in the UK.
Right, that is very important to all of them, yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
There were challenges, okay, I'm not going to lie. There were times where obviously the biggest challenge is you're away from home. You're away from family, right? I don't care who you are going to miss your family, your parents, your friends, okay? So when you go out there, that is the first thing you face, right? It's difficult being in a new culture, being in a new language, being surrounded by people with different language and different backgrounds. But I think not only is that a challenge, it's also an opportunity where you can talk to them and make new friends and, just basically have loads of fun. Okay, there will be challenges. There will be times where it might be difficult for you to get certain things done. Okay, you'll have to learn new skills. I'll give you an example. I couldn't cook before I went abroad. But because of the pandemic, I was forced to, because the food supply was down, I was forced to learn how to cook. Okay, this might sound strange, but I'd never washed my clothes myself before going abroad, right? But because I was in that position where I had to either sink or swim, I had to just give it a go and learn how to do it. So these are the everyday challenges you will face, right? So, it's a challenge but also an opportunity, I think.
Good, that's it. And the last question of mine is that always maybe somebody is thinking also in their mind, but they are not telling at present to you. Yes. Maybe they are waiting for the chance to tell. That is very important, is that from India, since you are an Indian, and going abroad, everyone wishes to go abroad and everyone wants to get the opportunity. So which platform you have got from India, which is very important, with the help of the particular thing that you have gone to the right path and you have taken that pain to get it done. And at last you have achieved that.
Thank you, that's a brilliant question. So as I said, always ask questions, and you make a very good point. If you have a question, someone else in the audience will most likely have that question as well. So thank you so much for bringing it to light. The path I took was a bit unconventional compared to most people. I basically, in school, I ended up doing science with biology, and then I concentrated mostly on my board exams. Okay, and regarding abroad, what I did is I did my own research. I basically looked online. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it was worth it in the end.
No, when you have started, like from after 12th that you have given the exam?
That's
or before 12th?
Started researching?
Yeah.
So for me, it was class 11 when I started.
Because normally what happens is that we used to whenever you are going for some abroad things, we have to sit for TOEFL and all. So what exams that you have to give?
At least a year before you're planning to go. Yeah. So do your own research. That'll take a few months. Fine. And what I recommend is that language, it has to be within 6 months of you going, because that's a requirement, right? So if you start at least 9 months before, sign up for an exam, because these exams are hard to get into, especially now. You get to sign up for. If you sign up 6 months before, would be a good time to do that.
Thank you, and I hope this will help others also.
I hope so
Thank you.
too.
Yeah.
Very good
Thank you.
questions.
Yes, we have a question. We have a question for you, sir. From Mr. Shomrik Basu. He wants to know, sir, what was your experience in abroad while you went for studying?
Experience in general?
What was your experience in general?
Right. I'd say it was quite fun, actually. Of course, I'd be lying to you if I said it's all, it's all smooth. There are some bumps in the road. But what I found by going through those bumps is it helped me develop as a person. So whenever I made a mistake, I told you right now, it's okay to make mistakes. And especially at the beginning, I made loads and loads of mistakes. And some of them, I look back on and go, how did I do that? But that's how you learn, right? So my experience is all about going out there, giving things a go, and learning from my mistakes. And the experience is quite nice. It's quite rewarding. You meet people from all over the world. You get to have a good time, and you get to learn a lot as well. So it's altogether positive, and I highly recommend.
Any other questions? No. Any other questions? Yes?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. First of all, thank you for your amazing speech. I really loved it. I had a question, but straight up, it's like a fact. I absolutely love neuroscience. That is probably what I'm going to major in college as well. But I think I have a thing for a very specific field in astrophysics, and that is about extraterrestrial life. I would literally watch hours of YouTube documentaries on it and be like totally indulged in them. From what I liked, I signed up for a summer program last summer provided by this non-profit organization based out of UC Berkeley. It was a course specifically on astrophysics and definitely extraterrestrial lives. I loved doing the course. I understood all the concepts. They were so amazing. But I absolutely hated the part when like super massive equations came into the game. What is your advice in general for somebody who loves the concepts, who want to study more about them, but is totally feared by the fact that they would have to deal with like super long equations, numericals, derivations based in like high school work and stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think it's brilliant that you already know what you want to do, which I think is incredible, right? At your age, having a clear idea of where you want to be and already taking steps towards it, I really admire that. So that's incredible, matey. Yes, equations, they are a problem, aren't they? But you also said you like concepts. So what I'd say is play to your strengths. If you like concepts, right, stick to the concepts. If you're not setting an exam for it, right, you probably won't have to deal with the equations. You can just read up on the concepts, expand your mind, and keep on doing that. But if you are sitting for an exam as well, don't focus on the equations, right? Because a lot of people come to me and send me an email saying, what formulas do I need to remember? The answer is none. You don't need to remember any formulas. Because usually what they do abroad is they're more focused on your understanding, and it looks like you've mastered that, by the way. So what you need to focus on is what they do in exam abroad typically, for those of you who are thinking of giving an exam abroad, is they'll give you the end point of equation, right? They'll give you the equation, and they'll basically test, if you can apply the equation, tweak some things, apply some numbers, maybe even derive something from the equation, rather than remembering the equation itself. So if you are scared of equations, don't worry. You won't be asked to remember it. You're on a good path, so keep on going.
Thank you.
Any other question? Please.
Hello
Hello
again. Yeah, I just had a last question
Yes.
for my part today.
Thank you.
What are your views on parallel universes? Like, we are hearing too much about it nowadays, and I need verification from a individual who actually studies it.
Could I be cheeky and ask you for your views?
On one hand, I am a fan of MCU and Spider-Man, so I believe in parallel universes. But on the other hand, scientifically speaking, if we can develop wormholes and we can go back in time, and depending on we are saying that the different universes travel on different frequencies,
Yeah.
so therefore, yeah, maybe parallel universes do exist somewhere.
Maybe, we just haven't seen them yet. And
We
if we
haven't
haven't
seen
seen something, we can't confirm or deny that.
Spoken like a true scientist.
I have to, it's part of my job.
Thank you.
Any more? Feel free.
Quite a lively discussion. Any other question?
There's one question here
Oh.
from Mr. Rohan Chakraborty. He asks, "Sir, what is the most important thing to do after going abroad for higher studies?"
Oh, that's a very good question, though. Be yourself. Just go out there, be yourself, right? The answer will come to you. There's no special way of doing it. You just go out there, you try out new things, you take their culture in, give them some of yours, and you interact with people. And that's the way I learned myself, right? There's no special one-size-fits-all approach to doing this, right? So trust me, just go out there, interact with other people, you know, learn from other people, tell them, teach other people stuff. You can't go wrong. But the other important thing to do is keep in touch with your family as well, because trust me, family helps as well.
Find friends.
Oh yes, find friends, of course. That goes without saying. Any more?
Is that all? Yes.
Ah, brilliant.
Sir, I have come to know that you have done your PhD in gamma ray astronomy.
Yes.
So tell us something about that. What is this gamma ray astronomy? So other students can also choose this particular topic. Because astronomy we have heard, but how this gamma ray is going to change the entire thing?
Thank you so much. That's an amazing question. I was actually thinking whether to include that in my talk, but I was hoping someone would ask that. So, what you see around you, all of us, is optical light, right? It's visible light, right? The spectrum, you might have done at school. What you see around you is optical or visible light. Now, you have light of different energies. So below optical, for example, you've got infrared. Below infrared, you've got radio and microwaves, okay, in energy scale. You can go the other way in the energy scale. So above visible light is ultraviolet light. I don't know if you guys know ultraviolet light. Above that is X-ray light. I know we have some doctors over here. X-ray, that's the more energetic one. And finally, the most energetic light particle is gamma ray. Okay, and this is energies in MEV to GeV and even TeV light scales. So these are the most energetic particles up in the sky. And these are emitted near the black hole, right? And they come to Earth, they come to the atmosphere, and they interact with the atmosphere and form electrons and positrons, right? These electrons and positrons give more light particles. Eventually we end up with what is called the air shower. Now some of these particles are moved faster than the speed of light in the atmosphere, and that is what people like me catch with our telescopes and try to figure out what the source is of these energetic particles. Does that answer your question? Of course.
To observe this, like you said that some radiation from this gamma ray and other things is coming and you are catching by the telescope.
Yes.
So the telescopes are general or something specific attached with some computer or something like that which can process the entire data?
Yes, I mean telescopes are controlled by the software and is all attached to four computers with which we use to make sense of the data we collect. So yes, process them and discriminate the gamma rays from the other less energetic things and the cosmic ray background as well.
And one more thing, these things are done from some observatories or you are some specific locations are there on Earth where you are doing all these things or anywhere you can perform these activities?
Very good question. Anywhere with a dark sky. Now there are three main observatories. There's one, the one I work in is called Veritas. It's located in Arizona in America.
Okay.
But the other two observatories, there's one in Namibia called HESS, and there's one in Europe called MAGIC. So anywhere with a dark sky, you can perform this. But these are the three main ones. But there's also one in India, in Ladakh, by the way, which we also use.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Atreya.
Thank you. Any more? Yes.
স্যার গামা রের উপরে আর একটা কোশ্চেন, গামা রে বাসটা কি?
গামা রে বাসটা কি?
হ্যাঁ
আচ্ছা, আমি যেটা বললাম এটা হলো ব্ল্যাক হোল, যেটা গ্যালাক্সির ভেতর থেকে আসছে। মানে সব সময় কিন্তু গ্যালাক্সির ভেতর থেকে গামা রে আসে না, কিছু কিছু থাকে অন্য জিনিস, যেমন পালসার, যেমন সুপারনোভা রেমনেন্ট, যেমন এইগুলো থেকে আমরা যে গামা রেটা পাই এটা মানে সব সময় পাই না, মানে বাস্ট মতো সময় মানে ট্রানজিয়েন্টভাবে পাই। তো এইগুলোকে সকলকে আমরা একসাথে বলি গামা রে বাস।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। স্যার ভয়েজার 1 অ্যান্ড ভয়েজার 2 এর মধ্যে ডিফারেন্স কী ছিল মিশনের দুটো?
লঞ্চ ডেট, তাছাড়া কিছু না।
যখন দুটো একই কাজ করবে তাহলে দুটোকে আলাদা পাঠানো হলো কেন?
কারণ তখন আমরা পুরোপুরি জানতাম না জিনিস সম্বন্ধে, তো প্রথমটা যদি কোনো কারণে পুড়ে যায় বা এক্সপ্লোড করে যায় আরেকটা ব্যাকআপ হিসাবে।
কিন্তু আমরা জানি দুটো পাত আলাদা ছিল, এটা কেন?
যখন আমরা দেখলাম প্রথমটা ঠিকঠাক কাজ করছে, আমরা অন্যটাকে একটু অন্যরকম, যারা আমরা যা বললাম আগে, মানে পুরোটা তো আমরা দেখতে পারি না যে কোনো একটা স্পেসিফিক পয়েন্ট থেকে। তো আমরা যদি আরেকটাকে অন্যদিকে বলি, তাহলে আমরা আরও সোলার সিস্টেম, আরও ইউনিভার্সটা অবজার্ভ করতে পারবো।
স্যার আরেকটা কোশ্চেন, ইন্টারস্টেলার স্পেস নিয়ে কিছু বলুন।
ইন্টারস্টেলার স্পেস নিয়ে, সেটা হলো যে স্পেসে কোনো স্টার নেই, তো সেখানে আমরা জানি সেখানে যে পার্টিকেলগুলো আছে, সেই পার্টিকেল থেকে স্টারগুলো আসলে জন্ম নেয়। তো সেখানে অনেকগুলো ডাস্ট পার্টিকেল আছে, সেখান থেকে রিয়াকশন হয়, স্টেলার নার্সারি যেটা বলে, অনেকগুলো স্টার সেখান থেকে ফর্ম হয়। তাছাড়া সেরকম কিছু নেই সেখানে।
ওকে স্যার, আর একটা হচ্ছে স্যার কসমোলজি, অ্যাস্ট্রোলজি আর
অ্যাস্ট্রোনমি।
হ্যাঁ, অ্যাস্ট্রোনমির মধ্যে ডিফারেন্সটা কি?
কসমোলজি হলো বিগ ব্যাং নিয়ে, মানে আমাদের ইউনিভার্সের শুরুতে নিয়ে বেশি পড়া, আর অ্যাস্ট্রোনমি হলো এই গ্যালাক্সির মধ্যে আমরা যেটা অবজার্ভ করি সেটা। তো কসমোলজিটা বেশি থিওরিটিক্যাল হবে, কারণ সেইগুলোতে ব্যাপারে আমরা অবজার্ভ বেশি করতে পারি না, whereas অ্যাস্ট্রোনমিটা মোর অবজারভেশনাল।
ওকে স্যার।
There's one more question.
Yes.
From the same person, Mr. Shomrik Basu. He's asking, sir, how did you prepare yourself for the entrance exams of the universities?
I didn't really have to give any entrance exams. So basically, I just gave my boards, and based on that, I got accepted. The only exam I had to give separately was the language exam. And for my PhD, basically, I reached out to my supervisor, rather my PhD supervisor reached out to me, and we had like a brief informal interview, and that's how I got in over there.
আর কারোর কিছু জিজ্ঞাসা আছে? Is that all? Shall we then call it a day? তাহলে আত্রেয়, what is the take home message?
Just have fun, guys, have fun, that's what it's about.
কি বুঝলেন স্টুডেন্টসদের বলছি, কি বুঝলে? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. সারাদিন পড়াশুনো করো না, করো না, করো না, জীবনটাকে উপভোগ করো। আরেকটা জিনিস, যেটা করবে বলে মনস্থির করেছো, যত সামান্যই সেটা মনে হোক, যতই তিরস্কৃত হও, ওকে যতই তোমাকে নিয়ে মজা করুক, সেইটা নিয়ে এগিয়ে যাও। বিলিভ মি, অ্যাট দি এন্ড অফ দ্য ডে ইউ উইল ফাইন্ড স্যাটিসফ্যাকশন। নিজেকে খুশি করো, অন্যকে খুশি করে জীবন কাটিও না। নিজে যেটা করতে আনন্দ পাও সেটা করো। আরেকটা জিনিস, আমি জানি না কে কিভাবে কোন সময় বিদেশে বা এদেশে কি পড়বে, তোমাদের ভবিষ্যৎ কেরিয়ার পরিকল্পনা কি। যদি কোনো এক্সামস থাকে, আমি যেটা শুনেছি বিদেশে যেটা সবসময় খুব প্রাধান্য দেওয়া হয় রেজিউমের ওপরে, তোমার নিজের সম্পর্কে বলতে বলা হয়। প্লিজ প্লিজ প্লিজ, যেটা আত্রেয় বলল, গুগলে গিয়ে কপি পেস্ট করে নিজের রেজিউমে তৈরি করার ভুল করো না। কারণ আমরা যতই ভাবি ভারতীয় হিসেবে আমরা খুব চালাক, হ্যাঁ আমাদের অনেক বুদ্ধি, আমরা সত্যি অনেকের থেকেই হয়তো অনেক চালাক, তবে আমাদের থেকেও বুদ্ধিমান লোক কিন্তু পৃথিবীতে আছে, যারা বছরের পর বছর এই অ্যাপ্লিকেশন প্রসেসগুলো ফাইল করছে, নাড়াচাড়া করছে। তারা কিন্তু অ্যাপ্লিকেশন দেখেই বুঝতে পারে কোনটা কপি পেস্টেড আর কোনটা নিজেরা খেটে তৈরি করেছে। ক্রিয়েটিভ হও, ইনোভেটিভ হও, নিজের যেটা ভালো লাগে সেটাই রিজিউমের মধ্যে মেলে ধরার চেষ্টা করো। আমি একটা উদাহরণ দিলে তোমরা বুঝতে পারবে। অনেকেই হয়তো টেড টক্সের নাম শুনেছো, আজকাল টেড টক্সটা খুব খুব পপুলার হয়ে গেছে। আমি যেটা দেখলাম, আমাদের এক পরিচিত একজন, তার মেয়ে রিসেন্টলি নিউ ইয়র্কের একটা ইন্টেরিয়র ডিজাইনিংয়ের একটা কলেজ, সেটা ওয়ার্ল্ড র্যাঙ্কিং 2, সেখানে কিন্তু চান্স পেয়ে সামনের বছর পড়তে চলে যাচ্ছে। তো তার মা আমাকে গল্প করছে যে আমি তো ভাবতেই পারিনি যে আমার মেয়ে এই মানে ওয়ার্ল্ড র্যাঙ্কিং 2nd একটা কোনো কলেজে চান্স পাবে, কারণ অনেকে 15-16টা আমেরিকান ইউনিভার্সিটিতে অ্যাপ্লাই করে, আমার মেয়ে মাত্র 5টাতে অ্যাপ্লাই করেছে, তার মধ্যে 2nd যেটা র্যাঙ্কিং ওটাতে চান্স পেয়ে গেছে। তো আমি সব কথা শুনে যেটা বুঝতে পারলাম যে One of the reasons why she got accepted was that ও কিন্তু একটা টেড টক করেছিল, ওর লার্নিং ডিসেবিলিটি আছে, সেই লার্নিং ডিসেবিলিটি নিয়ে একটা টেড লেকচার দিয়েছিল। এবং এ ধরনের কাজ যদি রিজিউমেতে লিখতে পারো যে আমি টেড টক দিয়েছি, বা আমি এক্সট্রা কারিকুলার অ্যাক্টিভিটি বলতে যেটা আমরা করি, সোশ্যাল কোনো কাজ করেছো কিনা, কোনো অর্গানাইজেশনাল কাজের সাথে তুমি যুক্ত কিনা, এইগুলোর ওপরে ওরা কিন্তু ভীষণ বেশি প্রাধান্য দেয়। নিজেকে মেলে ধরে এবং তার অ্যালাইড, তার সমসাময়িক যদি কোনো কাজ থাকে সেগুলো যদি করতে আরম্ভ করো পড়াশোনার সাথে সাথে, এবং সেগুলো যদি আস্তে আস্তে রিজিউমেতে অ্যাড করে তোমার সিভিটাকে এনরিচ করতে পারো, তাহলে তোমার বিদেশে যাওয়ার চাবিকাঠিটা কিন্তু তোমার হাতের মুঠোর মধ্যেই থাকবে। আর কারোর কোনো যদি প্রশ্ন থাকে, আত্রেয়কে কিন্তু আমরা বারবার পাবো না, এটাই সুযোগ, করে ফেলতে পারো লজ্জা না করে, কারণ ও কিন্তু বারবার আমাদের বলেছে প্রশ্ন করতে ভয় পেও না, যে যাই মনে করুক। হ্যাঁ,
বলছি যে এলিয়েনের সন্ধান কি পাওয়া গেছে?
খুব ভালো প্রশ্ন এটা। এই অবধি পাওয়া যায়নি। এখন প্রশ্নটা হলো আমরা কি খুঁজছি? আমরা এলিয়েন খুঁজছি না, আমরা খুঁজছি যেই পৃথিবীতে জীবন থাকতে পারে। এবার এই মুহূর্তে যেটা আমাদের হাতে আছে সেটা একটাই উদাহরণ, সেটা হলো আমরা। আমাদের পৃথিবী একটা র্যান্ডাম চান্সে হয়েছে যে আমরা এক্স্যাক্টলি এমন দূরে সূর্যের থেকে যে আমাদের টেম্পারেচার 0 থেকে 100 ডিগ্রির মধ্যে, আর সেই কারণে আমরা জল রাখতে পারি। আর যদি সেটা না হতো সেটা কিন্তু তারা কিন্তু আমরা হতাম না, তাই না? তো আমরা এই মুহূর্তে জানি যে অনলি জল থাকলে মানে যে কোনো লাইফ এলিয়েন থাকতে পারে। তো আমরা যেগুলো খুঁজছি, আমরা এলিয়েন খুঁজছি না, আমরা দেখছি কোন কোন পৃথিবীতে আমাদেরই মতো টেম্পারেচার থাকতে পারে। এই মুহূর্তে থাকিনি, কিন্তু আমি এটা বলবো পৃথিবীর বাইরে মিলিয়নখানা গ্যালাক্সি আছে, সবকটা মিলিয়ন গ্যালাক্সিতে মিলিয়নখানা স্টার আছে সূর্যের মতো। তো একটা পসিবিলিটি যে ওখানে একটা প্ল্যানেট আছে আমাদের মতো, সেটা কিন্তু খুব খুব হাই, কিন্তু এই মুহূর্তে আমরা সেটা জানি না। তো এলিয়ান হ্যাঁ বলবো না, নাও বলবো না, কিন্তু এই মুহূর্তে নেই।
থ্যাংক ইউ।
Any more questions?
One more question, last question.
Of course.
Oh, go on.
More, as many as you like.
I have heard that some radio signals were detected by the scientists
Yes.
of late, and those radio signals coming from some outer galaxies. Is it true?
So far we haven't been able to cross-confirm it. So usually if you detect something in one place, what we try to do is someone else tries to do an independent study to verify it. As things stand, we haven't been able to verify it and confirm where that is coming from. But it is possible it is out there. It could be aliens, but we don't know yet.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Pleasure.
this
Thank you.
enlightening talk. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Pleasure.
Would now request Dr. Gautam Kastagi, Chairman, Bath Inspire Foundation, to offer the vote of thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a wonderful evening, one of the most memorable evenings of my life. First of all, formally, I have to say a few things, and then informally. I would like to start off by thanking the outstanding scholar, and I emphasize really outstanding scholar of this evening, Dr. Atreya Acharyya, for his riveting talk. And it's only after today's talk I've realized what work he's doing and what is his future. I've known him for over last 2 decades, because he's son of our friend, Dr. Shogato and Kakuli Acharya. Now, I'll just say this small incident. When we went for a holiday, me and my wife Aparna asked him, what is your favorite subject? He was very young. I suppose he was 6 years old. So we went together for a holiday in Andaman. And he was an early riser. like us. And he used to come to our room and we used to go around and ask him, what is your favorite subject? And he said, maths, of course maths. So we asked, why maths? Because most students are afraid of maths and physics. He said, uncle, porte hoy na, you don't have to study. So for maths, if you have the logic, for all other subjects you have to study. So that very day, two of us knew Atreya is going to go really far. And we really celebrated when I heard he's not going to do medicine. Unlike most of the medical families, So we really celebrated, and because we work together, I always discuss, the moment we meet, we always discussed about his projects, his plans, and everything we know. And this program we started, Inspiring Young Minds, we have done one before with Tathagato Datta, was also a wonderful speaker, and we will do many more. But believe me, this conception of this program came from Atreya, because we knew he has to come here and share his experiences with the next generation, with the current students. Because we have always believed, we have all come from middle class background, and we believe what is the most important strength, why I'm here today, it is only because of my knowledge. And your knowledge can take you far. And I was reliving my past when I'm listening to Atreya, how we went abroad, how we made friends, what we have learned from their culture. And believe me, they really respect Indians. They hugely respect Indians, and they want to learn from us. They criticize us in many ways, but these are constructive criticism. But of course, our sincere gratitude also goes to Professor Amita Chatterjee. Amita Di, thank you very much. She is our library subcommittee member in Bengal Club. For giving her invaluable time, she is always with us. She has been our pillar of strength as always. Our librarian, Mrs. Shebonti Shengupta, is one whom we could never thank enough. And I really mean it. Her determination and grit to see through all the technical details to the T has been the reason why this program has been so successful. She has been the mastermind of question answer session, and it has been always conducted without a glitch. Thank you, Shebonti. Our technical wizard, Mr. Gurudas Mitra, who is not here today, but he has taken care of all the details, and he is yet another such dedicated soul. Without his support, we would never been able to run this event so seamlessly. I don't know what is the number. Last time the program was seen by over 1,500, yeah. And we put it back again in YouTube and Facebook, and people really appreciate. Now, at this stage of life, we feel we should contribute more to the society, help people to learn, relearn, and as Atreya has said, we are so fortunate. We are so fortunate. When we were students, we didn't have any of these facilities, and the future generation are going to have even more. Computers are going to get even super fast. Thanks goes to the food and beverages team, because you can look at me and say that I love food. So there is no meeting without eating. So I always make sure there's eating first, and then otherwise what happens is your glucose level falls. So you feel hypoglycemic, but also eating too much make you drowsy. So whenever we are doing a conference, we try to put a speaker, after lunch speaker. Everybody wants to be the pre-lunch session speaker, because the audience is maximum, because the lunch will be served. But immediately after lunch, sometime, the theory is when the blood supply of stomach increases, apparently it diminishes from brain, so you feel little drowsy. But other thing I observe is during a lecture, how many people are watching at their mobile phone. And believe me, I was looking at and taking few pictures. Apparently I was trying to take pictures, but I was trying to see how many of you were looking at your screen and how many over there. Believe me, I couldn't look at my phone. He was so absorbing, every second of it. I will always remember this speech forever, Atreya. But you have to do many more sessions like this throughout the world. I'm sure you will be doing it. Now, the food and beverages team, fantastic support, headed by Mr. Shiladitya Lahiri. He is the ever Mr. Dependable. For all the technical arrangements behind the scene, like audiovisual, art, designing, thanks to Team Rueda, Tamanna and Gayatri is here, and of course Tania and many other. They are like our children because they have been supporting us for last 5 years, organizing all the meetings and conferences. We have been very fortunate to be supported by the team of very active and dedicated employee of our organization. We don't call it organization, we call it family. And my wife always says, you spend more time with your extended family than your home. When people ask me, how many kids do you have? I say 100. So they look at me, they said, you must be mad. But all my colleagues and staff are like my children. And I put it in my clinic that any misbehavior with my children won't be accepted. And some people think, what is he saying? Misbehavior with my children. So they are our children in true sense. And a special thanks goes to Mr. Arup Sinha, Mr. Amit Pal, Mr. Riya De, and of course, last but not the least, Mrs. Indira Roy. We lack words for their participation and their willingness to complete tasks beyond their comfort zone. And many of you are here only because of their effort of visiting all the schools and colleges and repeatedly requesting you, sometime perhaps bothering you, to attend this program. Now finally, a very big thank you to all the directors, all the principals, all the teachers, students and parents and well-wishers for your rock-solid encouragement and presence. Because without you, this occasion would have been incomplete, impossible, no matter how good Atreya is. With this interaction, with these questions, we love the interaction, and that is why it is so interesting, and that is really the icing on the cake. Lecture is good, but Atreya, I'm sure you would appreciate without questions. And all these questions, I was seeing the expression on Atreya's face, and I'm sure all of you will accept this is a very honest interaction. There is no acting. There is no, like baniye bola. And I really love this feature, which now current generation says, okay, I don't know, I'll read it and I'll come back to you. Because when I was a student, teachers never said, okay, I don't know. And it is only after going abroad. But now I see all of us are not hesitant to say, because the science or literature or language, everything is so vast, no one can know everything. So we need to learn and relearn and relearn. So thank you very much for your rock solid encouragement and present. Without your warm support and cooperation, we couldn't have been enlightened so much. And you have shown us new path for excelling in the future. So we will be very happy. The world is now a small village. So people from India will go abroad, they will come back. And of course, thank you very much to Mrs. Navamita Dattagupta for her excellent contribution. And the contribution, what she did is actually her lifetime experience, because she's doing it every day in the school. And the example she said, I've seen so many times, those students who are sitting in the last bench, not listening to the teacher, they've excelled in life, be it in medicine, be it in the school. Because I believe this, what many of the famous people have said, if you love what you are doing, it is not your job, it is not your work, it is part of your life. And I truly can say, I leave home early in the morning and I'm not tired when I'm returning home at night, because that is what I love to do. So try to find out something you would love to do for the rest of your life, and you will never be tired. Navamita, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. And finally, I would like to thank you once again, and very good evening to all of you. We look forward to meeting you again in different aspects of life, in similar programs. Maybe some of you will be teaching us when we get very old. So we look forward to the younger generation. All of us, I hope many of you will make us proud as Indian. So we say, Jonmechen jokhon ekta dak kete jan. Do something so people remember you for your contribution, no matter how small it is. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I say this without taking permission from Atreya. কারুর যদি কিছু জানার থাকে, you can exchange your email IDs with him. Atreya নিশ্চয়ই এই প্রোগ্রামের বাইরে তোমাদেরকে বা আপনাদেরকে অনেক কিছু নিয়ে আলোচনা করে বুঝিয়ে দিতে পারবে. So feel free to get in touch with him. Thank you and good night. দিদি, আজকে তুমি না থাকলে হতো না, তুমি আজকে না থাকলে হতো না. তোমার এই সাপোর্টটা যে আমার কাছে কত বড় জিনিস আমি বলে দারুণ হয়েছে না, দারুণ হয়েছে. I feel blessed to have you all. আর এটা আমার একটা অভিমান, মানে পার্ট অফ দ্য লাইব্রেরি সাব কমিটি. হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ দেখেছি ম্যাডাম, থ্যাংক ইউ ফর কামিং. গৌরব আজকে আসে, আমি জানি ইনফ্যাক্ট